The restaurant buzzed with weekend chatter, but at the Andersons' table, time stretched thin. Mrs. Anderson's fingers tapped the menu, her eyes following Megan as she breezed by, never pausing. Kayla shifted, her napkin twisted tight in her hands, watching the waitress laugh with another table. Mr. Anderson checked his watch, the gesture small but loaded. The hostess welcomed new guests with practiced warmth, menus delivered with a smile, while the Andersons' table remained untouched. Megan passed again, her tray heavy with plates, her gaze never meeting theirs. Kayla leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. "She skipped us 4 times. Mrs. Anderson squeezed her daughter's hand, offering silent reassurance. Across the room, Paul, the manager, caught Mr. Anderson's look, but turned away, busying himself with a spotless glass. The clock above the bar ticked, each second stretching the discomfort. Finally, Megan approached, pen in hand, her greeting clipped. "Need more time?" Mrs. Anderson replied, voice steady. "We're ready now." Megan's pen hovered, her face tight. Kayla's grip on her menu left creases along the edge. Just then, the office door opened. The Andersons stood, chairs, scraping the floor. Megan's head jerked up, surprise flickering across her face as her notepad slipped from her hand. The atmosphere shifted, the unspoken tension settling over the room. In that moment, dignity stood its ground, and the Andersons prepared to claim their place. Before the story continues, please let us know from where you are watching this video. Write your city or country in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like if you believe in stories that challenge injustice. Your engagement gives power to voices that need to be heard. Megan's laughter floated above the clatter of plates as she leaned into a conversation with a couple at table 5, her voice bright and inviting. She listed specials with a practiced charm, earning a grateful chuckle from the man and a nod from the woman. Megan's posture relaxed, shoulders dropping as she accepted their thanks. She moved on, her smile fading as she neared the Andersons. Her steps grew brisk, her eyes fixed on the order pad, and her voice lost its warmth. The Andersons noticed the shift, exchanging a glance that said more than words ever could. Paul watched from behind the bar, polishing a glass that needed no cleaning. His eyes flicked to Megan, then to the Andersons and back again. He hesitated, lips parting as if to speak, but the words never came. Instead he turned away, stacking coasters with unnecessary precision. Samantha, another server, caught the exchange and offered the Andersons a small, apologetic smile before hurrying off to refill a coffee cup. Kayla sat straighter, her gaze following Megan as she stopped at another table, her voice once again lively and welcoming. The Andersons' menus remained closed, their water glasses untouched. Mrs. Anderson's hand rested gently on Kayla's arm, steady and calm. Mr. Anderson's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. A regular at the counter raised an eyebrow, watching the pattern unfold. Megan returned to the kitchen, her face set in a neutral mask. The Andersons waited, their patience a quiet resistance against the sting of being passed over. The restaurant's energy pulsed around them, but at their table, a heavy pause settled, thick with the knowledge of what had just happened. In that pause, the true cost of selective service was felt by everyone who cared to notice. Kayla traced the edge of her napkin, eyes fixed on the table as the bustle of the restaurant swirled around her. Mrs. Anderson sat tall, her gaze steady, refusing to shrink beneath the weight of being passed over. Mr. Anderson offered a gentle squeeze to Kayla's shoulder, a silent reminder that they belonged here as much as anyone. The family's quiet composure stood in contrast to the nervous energy of the staff, who darted glances their way but kept their distance. A server dropped a spoon nearby, the clatter breaking the hush for a moment. Kayla looked up, meeting her mother's eyes. There was no anger there, only a calm resolve that steadied her. Mrs. Anderson offered a small nod, encouraging her daughter to hold her head high. Mr. Anderson unfolded his napkin, smoothing it across his lap with deliberate care, his every move a statement of self-respect. At a nearby table a child laughed, and the sound rang out, clear and unburdened. The Andersons remained still, their patience a shield against the discomfort pressing in from all sides. Kayla straightened her back, mirroring her mother's posture, her resolve growing with every breath. The family's silence was not surrender, it was strength, a refusal to let someone else's prejudice define their worth. Paul glanced over from the bar, guilt flickering across his face. Samantha hesitated, then brought a pitcher of water to a different table, her steps uncertain. The Andersons waited, their dignity unbroken, creating a quiet stage for resilience in the midst of a crowd that pretended not to see. In those moments, the Andersons taught everyone watching what it meant to endure with grace. Megan finally approached, her footsteps clipped, order pad pressed tightly to her chest. She didn't meet anyone's eyes, her voice flat as she spoke. "I'll be with you when I can." The words dropped between them, sharp and dismissive. Kayla's lips parted, but Mrs. Anderson placed a gentle hand on her daughter's arm, signaling restraint. The moment stretched, heavy with what was left, unsaid. Mrs. Anderson's reply was soft, but her tone carried weight. "Take your time. We're not in a hurry." Her words, calm and measured, shifted the energy at the table. Megan hesitated, pen hovering in the air, unsure how to respond. A nearby busboy paused, glancing over his shoulder before continuing. To stack plates, the tension not lost on him. Mr. Anderson watched Megan, his expression unreadable. Kayla sat taller, emboldened by her mother's poise. Around them, the restaurant's noise seemed to fade, replaced by an unspoken awareness that something important had just happened. Megan's face tightened, a flicker of discomfort passing through her features as she scribbled something on her pad. Paul looked up from behind the bar, his fingers drumming on the countertop. Samantha, passing by, offered the family a fleeting, sympathetic look before disappearing into the kitchen. The regular at the counter shifted in his seat, catching the subtle shift in power. Megan turned and walked away, her steps less certain than before. The Andersons remained, their patience now tinged with quiet defiance. The air around their table felt different, charged with the knowledge that respect had been demanded, not begged for. In that brief exchange, the balance had shifted, and everyone who witnessed it felt the change ripple outward. The quiet hum of the dining room faltered as the office door creaked open at the far end of the hallway. Evelyn Anderson stepped out first, her posture composed, eyes scanning the room with calm authority. Charles followed, his hand resting gently on Kayla's shoulder. The family moved together, their presence commanding attention without a word. Megan froze mid-step, a dessert plate wobbling in her grip. Her eyes widened as she recognized the Andersons walking toward the center of the restaurant, not as guests, but as leaders. The regular at the counter sat up straighter, curiosity flickering across his face. Samantha, arms full of coffee cups, paused mid-pour, her gaze darting between Megan and the Andersons. Paul, still at the bar, set his glass down with a quiet thud. He straightened his tie, the realization dawning that the balance in the room had shifted. The Andersons' calm was unmistakable. They didn't need to raise their voices or make a scene. Their authority was woven into every measured step. Megan's breath caught as Evelyn approached. The plate in her hand trembled, a faint rattle betraying her nerves. Kayla met Megan's gaze, her expression steady, no longer the uncertain girl from before. Charles nodded at a staff member who quickly stepped aside, clearing a path. A hush settled over the room. Forks paused mid-air, conversations stalling as the staff and guests sensed something significant unfolding. Megan's certainty faded, replaced by a dawning unease. She stepped back, her confidence unraveling as the truth of who the Andersons were became clear. The Andersons stopped at the heart of the restaurant, their presence undeniable. At that moment, the unspoken rules had changed, power had shifted, and everyone in the room felt the weight of what had just been revealed. A drawer slid open, metal scraping against wood, as Evelyn pulled out a stack of letters, each one stamped, in red, each one a reminder. She held one up to the light, her name spelled out in bold, the word "denied," slashed across the top. Charles sat beside her, fingers tracing the edge of another envelope, his jaw tight. You remember how many times we tried? Evelyn's voice was low, almost a whisper. Charles nodded, unfolding a letter. Every time, a new excuse. Wrong form. Wrong timing. Wrong... everything. Evelyn's shoulders dropped. But the bakery down the street opened in 6 weeks. Charles let out a breath, frustration simmering beneath his calm. Their paperwork sailed through. Ours. Always another hurdle. A younger Kayla peeked, around the corner, clutching a coloring book. "Are we moving again?" she asked, voice small. Evelyn forced a smile. "Not this time, honey. We're staying." The memory faded, replaced by the present. Evelyn tucked the letters back into the folder, her movements careful. The old rejection still stung, but it didn't define her. She glanced at Charles, who offered a steady look in return. Across the years, the Andersons had faced closed doors, endless forms, and polite dismissals. Each setback had built a quiet resilience, a determination that couldn't be stamped out. The walls of their office, lined with framed menus and family photos, stood as proof that they had endured. Charles reached for Evelyn's hand, squeezing it gently. "We made it through," Evelyn nodded, resolving sharpening in her eyes. "We did, and we're not going anywhere." The folder slid shut, the weight of a decade's struggle packed away but never forgotten. In the next room, laughter from the dining area drifted in, a reminder that their place at the table had been hard-won. Laughter bounced off the tiled walls as Megan leaned against a row of lockers, recounting a story from the night before. "He asked for extra sauce like I had time for that," she said, rolling her eyes. A couple of servers chuckled, one mimicking a customer's accent behind his hand. The new waiter, Adam, hesitated at the edge of the group, his smile faltering as he caught the joke's target. Paul walked through, clipboard in hand, pausing just long enough to catch the tail end of the laughter. He glanced at Megan, then at Adam, but said nothing. Instead, he checked a schedule posted on the wall, his attention fixed anywhere but on the conversation behind him. Samantha, tying her apron, shot Adam a sympathetic look. "You'll get used to it," she whispered, voice barely audible. Adam nodded, but his eyes lingered on the map taped above the lockers. Certain tables were circled in red, others marked with stars. "Those are the good ones," Megan said, noticing his gaze. "You'll figure it out." A hush fell as the dishwasher entered, head down, headphones in. Megan smirked, nudging another server. "He never says a word." The group's laughter faded as the dishwasher loaded his cart, moving with practiced efficiency. No one greeted him. Paul cleared his throat, breaking the quiet. "Let's keep it moving, folks." He left, the door swinging shut behind him. Adam shuffled to his locker, the weight of the room settling on his shoulders. Samantha offered a quick smile before heading out, leaving Adam alone with the unspoken rules. Megan checked her lipstick in a compact, lips curling in satisfaction. The laughter resumed, softer now, but the message was clear. Some people belonged, and others were just passing through. In that cramped space, the lines were drawn without a word. A battered envelope sat atop the break room table, its corners bent, name scrawled in blue ink, Luis. Megan barely glanced at it as she grabbed her coffee, but Adam paused, curiosity flickering in his eyes. Samantha picked it up, reading aloud, her voice catching on the first line. "To whoever cares if anyone ever does." The room stilled. Megan rolled her eyes, muttering, "Probably just quitting for another job." Adam frowned, moving closer, as Samantha continued. 3 years of washing dishes. Not once did anyone ask how I was. Not once did I get a birthday card. I cleaned your messes. You never learned my name." Paul entered, arms full of invoices. He saw the envelope, hesitated, then dropped it in a drawer without a word. "We're short tonight," he announced, ignoring the letter's presence. Megan shrugged, returning to her phone. Samantha tucked her hair behind her ear, her face troubled. Adam lingered, eyes on the drawer. "Did anyone say goodbye?" he asked quietly. Megan shrugged again, not meeting his gaze. "People come and go," That's just how it is. The dishwasher's cart rolled by the window, empty now. Samantha whispered, "He was always here before anyone else." Adam nodded, a heaviness settling in his chest. The letter, forgotten by most, stayed with him. Later, Evelyn found the envelope while searching for receipts. She read it in the quiet of her office, her hands trembling. Charles looked over her shoulder, his jaw tightening as he read. "We never saw him," Evelyn said, voice barely above a whisper. The letter was filed away, but its words lingered. In the end, Luis's absence spoke louder than any complaint, a quiet indictment of a place where some people's names were never spoken at all. Kayla's footsteps echoed down the polished hallway, her uniform crisp, backpack slung over one shoulder. She paused by her locker, searching for the right combination. A teacher approached, clipboard tucked under one arm, eyes narrowing as she scanned Kayla's face. "Can I help you?" the teacher asked, tone polite but distant. Kayla shook her head. "No, I go here. I'm just getting my books." The teacher's lips pressed into a thin line. "Are you sure you're in the right place? This is the honors hallway." Kayla's cheeks burned. She nodded, forcing her voice steady. "I'm in Ms. Carter's class, room 204. A group of students passed, laughter trailing behind them. One girl glanced back, whispering to a friend. Kayla heard her name, the question in her voice. "Is she new?" Kayla closed her locker, shoulders squared. "I belong here," she whispered to herself, gripping her books tighter. The memory faded, replaced by the clink of glasses and the low hum of the restaurant. Kayla sat at the table, eyes on Megan as she skipped their family again. The sting of being questioned, of being doubted, pressed in on her chest. Mrs. Anderson reached over, brushing a stray curl from Kayla's forehead. "You're right where you need to be," she murmured. Kayla nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She straightened in her seat, determination flickering in her eyes. The echoes of that school hallway lingered, but now she was surrounded by her family, their quiet strength anchoring her. Across the room, Megan's laughter rang out, but Kayla didn't flinch. She remembered what it felt like to be lost in plain sight, and she vowed not to let anyone make her feel that way again. Paul lingered behind the bar, towel twisting in his hands as he watched Megan bypass the Andersons once more. The phone rang, but he let it go to voicemail, eyes fixed on the floor. A regular at the counter waved him over, grumbling about the noise from a nearby table. Paul forced a polite smile, nodding as if he cared, then glanced back at the Andersons, their patience unbroken. Samantha approached, her voice low. "Shouldn't someone say something?" Paul shook his head, his words clipped. "It's not my place." She hesitated, then left, disappointment etched across her face. Megan returned, dropping off drinks at another table. Paul caught her. "Aye," raising his chin in silent question. She shrugged, feigning ignorance, then busied herself with her order pad. The tension in the room pressed in, thick and unspoken. Paul's hands trembled as he stacked glasses, the clink sharper than usual. He thought of the staff meetings, the unspoken rule to avoid conflict, to keep things running smoothly no matter the cost. He remembered Luis's resignation letter the way it had been brushed aside. Guilt gnawed at him, but fear of confrontation kept him rooted in place. A customer at the bar asked for the check. Paul nodded, barely hearing, his mind racing. He watched the Andersons, their dignity unwavering, and wondered what it would take to break the cycle. Samantha passed by again, her eyes searching his face for a sign of courage. He looked away. As the night wore on, Paul remained silent, complicit in his inaction. The Andersons waited, the injustice growing more obvious with each passing minute. Paul's conscience weighed heavy, but still he did nothing, the cost of comfort far too high. Evelyn sat at her desk long after closing, fluorescent light flickering overhead. She opened a thick folder marked Customer Comments, spreading the papers across the surface. Her eyes scanned the feedback, red ink circling phrases. Waited too long. Never got water. Felt unwelcome. The names on the forms told a story. Most were black, some Latino, a few new to the area. Charles entered quietly, setting a mug beside her. "Any good news?" he asked, voice gentle. Evelyn shook her head, sliding a stack toward him. "Look, at the dates. Most of these are Megan's shifts." Charles frowned, flipping through the forms. "It's a pattern, not an accident." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "It's not just one bad day. It's every week, every month. Same tables, same faces." She highlighted a comment. "We watched other tables get served first." Another read. "No one checked on us." The words blurred together, a chorus of disappointment. Samantha peeked in, her voice soft. "Do you want help sorting?" Evelyn nodded, grateful. "Thank you, Sam." Samantha joined them, sorting the forms by date. "I've heard people talk about it," she admitted, "but no one wants to make trouble." Charles sighed, rubbing his temples. "Ignoring it doesn't make it go away." Evelyn gathered the forms, stacking them neatly. "This isn't just about one person, it's about what we allow." Samantha hesitated, then spoke. "If you need someone to back you up, I will." Evelyn managed a tired smile. "We'll need all the help we can get." As the papers were filed away, the reality settled in. The problem wasn't hidden, it was documented, catalogued, and quietly tolerated. Tonight, Evelyn decided, that would change. The evidence was clear. The time for excuses had ended. The office was silent except for the soft whir of the computer as Evelyn pulled up the security footage. The screen flickered, showing Megan weaving between tables, her path deliberate. Table 4 warm greetings, napkin refolded with care. Table 7 jokes exchanged, a hand on a guest's shoulder. The Andersons' table Megan's steps faltered, her gaze sliding away, no word spoken. Charles leaned in, brow furrowed. "Pause it there," he said. Evelyn clicked, freezing the frame. The Andersons waiting, menus untouched. Megan's back already turned. The timestamp read 12:47. She fast-forwarded. At 1:08 Megan finally stopped by, her face unreadable. Paul entered, stopping short when he saw the screen. "What's this?" he asked, voice tight. Evelyn didn't turn. "Proof." Paul watched, lips pressed thin. "You think it's that obvious?" Charles answered, his tone flat. "It's not a feeling. It's right there." Evelyn's hand hovered over the mouse, her fingers trembling. She replayed the segment, the evidence undeniable. Megan's avoidance wasn't subtle. It was routine. The Andersons' patience, the staff's glances, the mounting discomfort, all captured in pixels and time. Samantha peeked in, catching a glimpse. She swallowed. "How long did they wait?" Evelyn checked the clock on the footage. 21 minutes. Paul exhaled, rubbing his forehead. "We can't ignore this." Evelyn saved the file, her resolve hardening. "No, we can't." The monitor's glow reflected in her eyes as she closed the program. The truth was no longer a rumor or a feeling. It was a record, stamped with time and date, impossible to deny. The next steps would be harder, but the first one was done. The truth had been seen, and it would not be unseen again. Evelyn stood at the host's stand, sorting reservation slips, when Mr. Bennett, a longtime regular with silver hair and steady eyes, approached quietly. He leaned in, voice barely above a murmur. "It's not just you, Evelyn. I've seen it before. They always get skipped. Anyone who looks different." She paused, the weight of his words settling between them. "You noticed?" she asked, keeping her tone even. He nodded, glancing at Megan as she passed by, her expression guarded. "I've watched her walk past certain tables, not just once, more times than I can count." Evelyn's grip tightened on the reservation slips. "Thank you for telling me." Mr. Bennett shrugged, his gaze softening. "It's not right. I thought maybe if I said something it'd help." Megan caught the end of their exchange, her steps faltering for just a moment before she moved on, face set. Samantha, refilling water nearby, met Evelyn's eyes and gave a small, supportive nod. Paul lingered by the bar, pretending to check inventory, but his attention was fixed on the host stand. The room seemed to hold its breath, the usual hum of conversation replaced by a quiet tension. Evelyn turned back to her list, Mr. Bennet's words echoing in her mind. It wasn't just a feeling or a single incident. The pattern was visible to anyone willing to look. She glanced at the dining room, seeing it with new clarity. As Mr. Bennet returned to his seat, he gave Evelyn a reassuring smile. "You're not alone in this." Evelyn nodded, her resolve strengthening. The cracks in the system were no longer invisible. They'd been named, witnessed, and could no longer be brushed aside. Change, she realized, would start with the truth spoken in a whisper. The staff gathered in the dining room after closing, chairs pulled into a loose circle. Evelyn stood at the front, laptop open, the security footage paused on the screen behind her. Megan sat stiffly, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the floor. Paul lingered near the doorway, hands in his pockets, while Samantha sat forward, her expression tense but open. Evelyn cleared her throat, her voice steady. "We need to talk about what's been happening here. This isn't about blame, it's about who we choose to be as a team." She clicked play. The footage rolled, showing Megan's pattern of service. The room grew heavy, the only sound the faint buzz of the speakers. Megan shifted, her chair squeaking. "It's not what it looks like," she muttered, but her words fell flat. Adam, the new waiter, glanced at her, uncertainty flickering across his face. Charles spoke up, his tone calm but firm. "We've seen the comments. We've seen the footage. Patterns don't lie." Paul finally stepped forward, voice low. "We've all let things slide. That ends now." Samantha nodded, her support clear. "We can do better. We have to." Evelyn looked around the circle, meeting each person's gaze. "This is our chance to change things. Not just for us, but for everyone who walks through that door." Megan's jaw clenched, but she said nothing more. The group sat in a heavy pause, the reality of their choices settling in. Forks clinked in the kitchen as someone cleaned up, the ordinary sound oddly loud in the quiet room. Evelyn closed the laptop, her decision made. "Tomorrow we start fresh, together." The staff dispersed slowly, the weight of the meeting following, each of them home. The confrontation hadn't been loud, but its impact was undeniable. Megan sat alone at the edge of the empty dining room, her apron balled in her lap. The echoes of the meeting still rang in her ears. She stared at the floor, replaying the footage in her mind, her own face, her own choices, exposed for everyone to see. Her hands trembled, nails digging into the fabric as she tried to steady her breath. Samantha passed by, pausing for a moment. "You okay?" she asked, her voice gentle but wary. Megan shook her head, unable to meet her eyes. "I didn't think it would matter. I never thought anyone would notice." Adam hovered nearby, clearing tables. He glanced over, sympathy and disappointment mingling in his expression. "People notice more than you think," he said quietly. Paul entered, clipboard under his arm, his steps slow. He stopped beside Megan, not speaking right away. The silence pressed in, thick and uncomfortable. Finally, he said, "It's not too late to do better, but you have to want it." Megan nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know how to fix it." Charles appeared in the doorway, arms folded. "Start by admitting it was wrong. Then listen." Megan's eyes filled with tears. She wiped them away quickly, glancing around to see if anyone noticed. The dining room felt colder, the laughter and warmth from earlier replaced by a heavy sense of loss. Samantha squeezed Megan's shoulder before heading out. "We all have to face ourselves sometime." Left alone, Megan let the reality settle in. The certainty she once carried was gone, replaced by a gnawing shame. She looked at her reflection in the window, seeing herself not as the confident server, but as someone who had to change. The unraveling had begun, and there was no turning back. The glow of a phone screen lit up the dark kitchen as Adam scrolled through his messages, thumb hesitating over a shaky video clip from the staff meeting. He uploaded it anonymously, captioning it with a single phrase, "This is what happens when you're not seen." Within minutes, notifications flooded in. Kayla woke to her phone buzzing, the hashtag, "Your serve," everyone flashing across her screen. "Mom, it's everywhere," she whispered, showing Evelyn the flood of comments. Stories poured in from strangers. "Same thing happened to my family. We stopped going. Thank you for speaking up." At the restaurant, Paul's phone rang nonstop. Reporters left voicemails. Samantha read the comments aloud, her voice trembling. People are sharing their own stories. They're angry, but they're hopeful too. Megan sat in the break room, scrolling through the posts. Her name wasn't mentioned, but she recognized herself in every accusation. Her hands shook as she read, "We deserve better. This can't keep happening." Charles watched the coverage on the local news, arms crossed, jaws set. "It's out now," he said quietly. "There's no hiding from it." A regular customer stopped by the host stand, offering Evelyn a nod of support. "You did the right thing," he said. It needed to be said. Kayla posted a message of her own. "We're not invisible, not anymore." The likes and shares climbed higher. By evening, the hashtag trended citywide. The restaurant's story became a rallying cry, a call for change echoing beyond its walls. The Andersons sat together, feeling the weight of the moment and the hope it carried. In the quiet that followed, Megan closed her phone, the reality settling in. The world had seen what happened in the shadows, and now the light wouldn't fade. The morning after the video went viral, the restaurant's windows rattled with the sound of raised voices outside. A group of regulars argued near the entrance, some waving homemade signs. "Why make a scene?" one man demanded, arms crossed. "It's about time someone spoke up," a woman shot back, her voice shaking with conviction. Inside, Paul rearranged the menus on the counter, hands unsteady. Samantha peeked through the blinds, her face pale. "There's a crowd out there," she murmured. Adam nodded, glancing at Kayla, who stood near the door, phone in hand, recording the scene for social media. A teenager pressed a boycott sign to the glass, tape squeaking as it stuck. Megan watched from the break room, heart pounding, every shout outside landing like a blow. She caught her reflection in the metal sink, her face drawn and tired. Evelyn and Charles stood together in the office, listening to the noise filter in. "We knew it wouldn't be easy," Evelyn said, her voice steady but weary. Charles squeezed her hand. "Change never is." A customer entered, hesitating at the threshold. He looked from the protesters to the staff, uncertainty flickering across his face. Samantha greeted him with a tentative smile, her posture uncertain but determined. The tension in the air was thick, the restaurant's usual warmth replaced by a wary edge. Some staff whispered about quitting, others about standing firm. Kayla posted a photo of the crowd with the caption, "This is what truth looks like." As the day wore on, the lines between support and resistance sharpened. The Andersons watched, knowing the storm was only beginning. Outside, chants rose and fell. Inside, the staff braced themselves for whatever came next, united by the knowledge that nothing would ever be the same. The staff room was dim, blinds drawn tight against the chaos outside. Evelyn set her laptop on the table, the screen's glow, casting sharp shadows across tired faces. She clicked play, and the footage rolled. Megan moving through the dining room, her path clear and deliberate. Laughter and greetings for some tables, a quick retreat from others. Paul leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes fixed on the screen. Samantha hugged her arms to her chest, biting her lip. Adam watched, jaw clenched, his foot tapping a restless beat against the linoleum. Megan sat rigid, her gaze locked on the video. The image paused on her own face, caught mid-turn as she skirted the Andersons' table. The timestamp glowed in the corner. 20 minutes. No service. Evelyn's voice was quiet but firm. This is what everyone saw. This is what we can't deny. Paul swallowed hard. It's right there. No more excuses. Samantha's voice trembled. I never realized how obvious it looked from the outside. Adam nodded, his voice low. We all saw it. We just didn't want to admit it. Megan's hands twisted in her lap. I didn't know it was that bad. Evelyn looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. Now we do. And now we decide what we're going to do about it. A heavy pause settled, the only sound the faint hum of the laptop's fan. Outside, the noise of protest drifted in, muffled but insistent. Paul straightened, resolved, growing in his posture. We have to face it, all of it. Evelyn nodded, closing the laptop with a soft click. The truth, once hidden in routine, was now undeniable. The staff sat together, changed by what they'd seen, knowing the real work was just beginning. Megan stood near the doorway, her shoulders hunched, apron clutched so tightly her knuckles blanched. The staff lingered in a loose circle, faces drawn and expectant. Evelyn waited, arms folded, her expression unreadable. Paul shifted his weight, glancing from Megan to the others, uncertain if he should speak. Megan's voice broke the quiet, barely more than a whisper. I'm sorry. I didn't think it mattered this much. Her eyes darted to the floor, unable to meet anyone's gaze. Samantha exhaled, the tension in her jaw easing just a little. It mattered, she said, her voice gentle but firm. It always does. Adam nodded, his arms crossed, not unkind but resolute. We all saw it. Pretending we didn't only made it worse. Megan's lips trembled. I thought I was being fair. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. Evelyn's tone was calm, but her words carried weight. Intent doesn't erase impact. You can't fix what you don't acknowledge. Paul finally stepped forward, his voice low. You have to own it, Megan. All of it. Megan blinked back tears, her breath shaky. I don't know how to make it right. Charles, standing in the doorway, spoke for the first time. You start by listening, and you don't stop. A hush fell, heavy with the knowledge that apologies alone wouldn't heal what had been broken. Megan's apology hung in the air, too late to undo the hurt, but perhaps not too late to begin something new. Samantha reached out, giving Megan's arm a brief, supportive squeeze. We can do better. All of us. The staff stood together, the first fragile threads of accountability forming in the aftermath of Megan's words. The path forward would be hard, but the truth had finally been spoken. Paul lingered at the edge of the group, fingers drumming nervously against his thigh. The apology had faded, but the room still felt raw. He cleared his throat, drawing hesitant glances. I need to say something, he began, voice rougher than usual. I saw what was happening. I saw it more than once. Samantha looked up, surprise flickering across her face. Adam's arms dropped to his sides, attention fixed on Paul. Megan stared at the floor, her breath shallow. Paul swallowed, the words heavy. I didn't step in. I told myself it wasn't my place, or that things would work themselves out. But that was just me avoiding what I knew was wrong. Evelyn's eyes softened, but she didn't let him off the hook. You had the power to change it, she said quietly. Paul nodded, shame coloring his cheeks. I know. I was afraid of making things worse, or of upsetting the flow. But letting it go on, that's on me. Charles stepped forward, his voice low but steady. It's not just on you, but it starts with you admitting it. Paul's shoulders slumped, the weight of his inaction settling in. I let down the Andersons. I let down the staff. I let myself down. Samantha offered a small nod. Owning. It matters. It's more than most do. Adam spoke up, his tone gentle. We can't fix anything if we keep pretending. Paul took a shaky breath, meeting Evelyn's gaze. I want to do better. I will do better. The group stood in a heavy pause. the first real sense of unity settling in. Paul's confession didn't erase the past, but it cracked the wall of denial. For the first time, the possibility of change felt real, if still uncertain. Evelyn stepped forward, her posture composed, but her eyes burning with a restrained intensity. She traced her finger along the edge of the restaurant's logo on the wall. Her voice steady but edged with pain. "You saw us, but you didn't see us." "Not really." The words hung in the air, sharp and undeniable. Megan's shoulders tensed, her gaze fixed on a spot just beyond Evelyn's shoulder. Paul shifted uncomfortably, hands clasped behind his back. Samantha blinked, her lips pressed together. The impact of Evelyn's words settling over the group. Evelyn continued, her tone unwavering. This place was built so no one would ever feel like they had to prove they belonged. We wanted every person who walked through that door to feel welcome, to feel safe. She paused, letting the weight of her intent fill the room. Adam nodded, his expression thoughtful. "That's what drew me here. I thought it was different." Evelyn's eyes softened for a moment, but her resolve remained. Intentions aren't enough. If we let our standards slip, if we let comfort or habit blind us, then we become exactly what we set out to change. Charles moved to stand beside her, silent in support. Megan swallowed hard, her voice barely audible. "I never meant for it to be like this." Evelyn looked at her, not with anger but with a sorrow that cut deeper. "Meaning well doesn't undo the harm. You have to see us, all of us, not just when it's easy." A heavy pause followed, the group absorbing the truth. Samantha wiped at her eye. Adam stared at the floor. Paul exhaled slowly. Evelyn's words didn't need to be loud to be heard. In that quiet, the foundation for something better was finally laid. Charles stepped forward, rolling out a set of faded blueprints on the nearest table. His fingers traced the lines, pausing at the entryway, the kitchen, the row of booths along the window. "Every inch of this place was planned so people would feel seen," he said, voice low but clear. "We wanted light at every table, no corners to hide in, no favorites." Samantha leaned in, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "I never knew that," she admitted softly. Charles offered a small, tired smile. "We wrote notes on these plans. Make room for everyone. No bad seats. We chose the colors, the art, the music, so no one would feel out of place. We wanted it to feel like home." Paul studied the blueprints, guilt shadowing his face. "I forgot what it meant. I was just trying to keep things running." Charles shook his head. "Running isn't enough. You have to remember why you started." Adam glanced at the notes, reading the faded handwriting. "It's all here. You built this for all of us." Megan's voice was barely a whisper. "I never thought about it. I just did what I always did." Charles looked at her, not with anger, but with disappointment. Habits can build walls just as easily as bricks. If we're not careful, we lose sight of what matters. Evelyn rested, her hand on his arm, her support quiet but steady. The group gathered around the table, the blueprints a silent reminder of what the restaurant was meant to be. Charles folded the plans, meeting each person's gaze. "We built this to be seen. Now it's on all of us to make sure no one is left in the shadows." A hush lingered, the vision of belonging reclaimed, if only for a moment. A hush fell as the staff clustered near the table, blueprints still spread out. Without warning, Jenna, a young server with flushed cheeks, stepped forward, her apron bunched in her fist. She looked at Evelyn, then Charles, her jaw set. "I can't do this anymore," she said, voice trembling but resolute. Megan's eyes widened, surprise flickering across her face. Paul straightened, uncertainty clouding his features. Samantha reached out as if to stop Jenna but let her hand drop. Adam watched, silent, as Jenna placed her apron on the table, the fabric landing with a soft thud that seemed to echo through the room. "I thought I could just keep my head down," Jenna continued, her her words directed at no one and everyone. But that's not enough. Not after what I've seen. Evelyn nodded, her expression sad but understanding. Thank you for your honesty. Jenna's gaze swept the group. You all know what's been happening. Pretending it's not there doesn't make it go away. She stepped back, her shoulders squared, and walked out, the door closing quietly behind her. The room felt heavier, the unspoken truth now impossible to ignore. Megan stared at the apron, her own shame deepening. Paul rubbed his temples, the reality settling in that change would not come without loss. Samantha blinked back tears, whispering, "She's right." Adam nodded, his resolve strengthening. The Andersons stood together, watching as the staff processed the moment. The apron on the table was more than a resignation. It was a silent indictment, a call to action, and a reminder that complicity had a cost. In the quiet that followed, the group understood. Some wounds could not be patched over. The first crack had appeared, and there was no going back. Evelyn stood by the bulletin board, a stack of printed pages in her hand. She pinned the first sheet up. Mandatory anti-bias training. The staff gathered, reading each new rule as it appeared. Anonymous feedback forms, rotating table assignments, clear reporting channels. Samantha read aloud, her voice steady. No more good tables, no more favorites. Adam nodded, relief flickering in his eyes. Paul hovered at the edge of the group, guilt still etched on his face. It's overdue, he admitted, voice low. Megan lingered near the kitchen, arms folded, uncertain. The changes felt abrupt, but the reasons were clear. Evelyn faced them, her tone gentle but unwavering. This is about more than rules, it's about trust. We can't heal what we don't address, and we can't move forward if we keep pretending nothing's wrong. Charles added, We'll be checking in every week. If you see something, say something. No more looking the other way. Samantha raised her hand, a question in her eyes. Will we get support if we speak up? Evelyn nodded. Every voice matters. No one gets punished for doing the right thing. Megan glanced at the list, her face tight. What if someone messes up again? Adam answered quietly. Then we learn. We don't hide it. The dishwasher, usually silent, stepped forward. I'll help with training, he offered, surprising everyone. A small ripple of hope ran through the group. The rules were simple, but their meaning was profound. The old wounds wouldn't vanish overnight, but the first stitches had been made. As Evelyn pinned the last page, the staff understood. The future would be different, because they would make it so, together and out loud. Megan stood apart from the others, the new policy list trembling in her hands. She read each line twice, her heart pounding. Evelyn approached, folder in hand. You have a decision to make, she said quietly. You can take the training, start over, or you can walk away. The words weren't a threat, but a crossroads. Megan's eyes darted to Paul, who offered a small, uncertain nod. Samantha watched from across the room, her expression unreadable but not unkind. Adam leaned against the counter, arms folded, waiting. Megan's voice was barely above a whisper. What if I can't change? Evelyn met her gaze, steady and patient. You won't know until you try. But you have to want it. Megan's fingers tightened around the folder. She remembered Jenna's apron on the table, the sting of her own shame, the faces she'd overlooked. The choice felt enormous, heavier than she'd expected. Paul spoke, his tone gentle. We all have things to learn. No one's perfect, but you have to own your part. Megan nodded slowly, tears pricking at her eyes. I want to try. I don't want to leave like this. Evelyn handed her the training schedule. Then start here. Listen. Ask questions. Be uncomfortable. That's how you grow. Adam offered a quiet, good luck, and Samantha managed a small, encouraging smile. Megan clutched the folder to her chest, taking a shaky breath. The group watched, the moment stretching. Her decision was hers alone, but it would ripple through. All of them. She took a step toward the training room, resolving flickering in her eyes. The first step was the hardest, but it was hers to take. Redemption wasn't promised, but it was possible, and for the first time Megan chose to try. Camera flashes strobed through the restaurant windows as reporters crowded the sidewalk, microphones raised, and voices overlapping. Evelyn and Charles stepped outside, Kayla between them, the glare of news vans and cell phones nearly blinding. "How does it feel to be at the center of this?" a journalist called out. Evelyn paused, her voice calm but tired. "We just want a place where everyone feels welcome. That's all." Inside, Megan lingered near the kitchen, watching the coverage on a small TV mounted above the prep counter. Her name wasn't mentioned, but she recognized herself in every headline: "Restaurant Faces Reckoning. Serve Everyone Sparks Citywide Conversation." She gripped the edge of the counter, breath shallow. Paul answered a call from a local radio host, his words careful. "We're learning. We're listening. We're changing." Samantha peeked out the window, snapping a photo of the crowd for her own social feed. Adam updated the restaurant's website, posting a statement of apology and a promise of reform. Kayla scrolled through her phone, reading messages from classmates and strangers alike. "Proud of you?" one read. "Finally someone said it," said another. She looked up at her parents, pride and exhaustion mixing in her eyes. A customer approached Evelyn, offering a handshake. "Thank you for standing up. It means more than you know." Evelyn squeezed his hand, gratitude and relief mingling in her smile. Megan watched the Andersons from afar, the weight of the headlines pressing down. She knew the world was watching, not just her, but every choice the restaurant made from here on out. As the sun set, the crowd thinned, but the story kept spreading. The Andersons returned inside, the cameras still flashing behind them. The city had taken notice, and nothing would ever be quite the same. The training room felt colder than the rest of the restaurant, chairs arranged in a tight circle. Megan entered last, clutching her notebook, eyes darting to the floor. Evelyn welcomed everyone, her tone warm but direct. "We're here to learn what we never learned before. This isn't easy, but it matters." The facilitator, a woman with gentle eyes and a steady voice, began. "When did you first notice the difference?" The question lingered, no one eager to answer. Adam shifted in his seat, finally speaking up. "Middle school. I was told to stick with my own kind." His words hung in the air, raw and honest. Samantha nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "My parents said not to make waves. I listened." Megan's turn came. She hesitated, then found her words. "I never thought about it. I just did what everyone else did." The admission stung, but she didn't look away. Paul cleared his throat. "We all have blind spots, that's why we're here." The facilitator nodded. "Growth comes from discomfort. You can't change what you won't face." Evelyn watched the group, pride and hope mingling in her gaze. Charles squeezed her hand, silent encouragement. The dishwasher, who rarely spoke, offered, "I always felt invisible. Today I feel seen." The group fell quiet, the impact settling in. As the session ended, Megan closed her notebook, a new resolve in her eyes. The work ahead was daunting, but for the first time, she understood it was necessary. The Andersons lingered by the door, thanking each staff member for showing up. The first step was taken, awkward but real. The restaurant's future would be built on these moments, uncomfortable, honest, and finally, together. Megan sat alone at a corner table in a quiet cafe, her coffee untouched and cooling by the minute. She scrolled through her phone, the screen awash with comments and headlines. Saw the video. Shameful. Hope you learned something. Each message landed with a sting she hadn't expected, sharper than any confrontation at work. A barista called out an order, glancing her way with a flicker of recognition before looking away. Megan hunched her shoulders, shrinking into her seat. She watched a group of friends laugh at a nearby table, their easy camaraderie a stark contrast to the isolation pressing in around her. She tapped on a news clip, watching herself in the background of the viral footage. Her hands trembled as she read the words beneath the video, "Change starts with truth." She wanted to reply, to explain, but every draft she typed felt hollow. A woman at the next table whispered to her friend, eyes darting toward Megan. "That's the waitress from the story." Megan's cheeks burned. She stirred her coffee, the spoon clinking against the cup, but couldn't bring herself to take a sip. Her phone buzzed again, a message from Samantha. "Training was hard, but I'm glad you stayed." Megan managed a small, grateful smile, but the weight of public judgment lingered. She looked out the window, watching people pass by, each step a reminder that her mistake had become a lesson for the whole city. The punishment wasn't loud or obvious. It was the quiet, persistent ache of being seen for the wrong reason and the knowledge that moving forward would mean facing herself every single day. The restaurant glowed with a new warmth as evening settled in, tables pushed together to form one long row down the center of the dining room. Evelyn greeted each guest at the door, her smile genuine, her handshake steady. Kayla moved between tables, refilling glasses and sharing quiet laughter with children from the neighborhood. Charles stood by the kitchen, chatting with old friends, and newcomers alike. Regulars and first-timers mingled, the air filled with the scent of fresh bread and the sound of easy conversation. Samantha brought out plates of steaming food, her confidence growing with each trip from the kitchen. Adam helped a family find seats, offering a reassuring nod to a nervous father. Even Paul, usually reserved, made the rounds, checking in on every table. A woman from the community center stood to make a toast to second chances and to a place where everyone is welcome. Glasses clinked and laughter rippled through the room. The tension that once haunted the restaurant had faded, replaced by a sense of belonging. Kayla paused beside her mother, her voice soft. "It feels different now." Evelyn squeezed her hand. "That's because it is." Megan watched. From the kitchen doorway, uncertain but hopeful, she caught Samantha's eye, who offered a small encouraging smile. The staff moved with a new sense of purpose, each act of service a quiet promise to do better. As the evening wore on, stories were shared and friendships formed. The Andersons' vision for their restaurant, a table for everyone, had finally come to life. In the gentle glow of the lights, surrounded by community, the wounds began to heal, and the future felt possible. In the kitchen, the staff gathered around a freshly printed schedule taped to the wall. Samantha read aloud, "Everyone rotates tables, no more favorites." Adam grinned, marking his name on the new tip-sharing chart. The old system, with its quiet hierarchies, had been replaced by something fairer. Megan hung back, watching the changes unfold. Paul entered, clipboard tucked under his arm, and cleared his throat. "We're starting over. If you see something, say something. No more looking the other way." His words were met with nods, a few relieved sighs. The dishwasher, usually silent, offered, "I'll help train the new hires." The gesture drew a round of approving smiles. Samantha handed out the new aprons, each one embroidered with the restaurant's name. "We're all on the same team now," she said, her tone lighter than it had been in weeks. Megan accepted hers, fingers brushing the fabric, a tentative hope flickering in her eyes. Out in the dining room, the shift was palpable. Staff checked in on each other, sharing tips and quick jokes between orders. Adam stepped in to help Samantha with a large party, and she thanked him with a grateful nod. The old tension had faded, replaced by a sense of shared purpose. Kayla peeked into the kitchen, grinning at the sight of everyone working together. "Mom says it feels like family again," she announced, drawing a chorus of agreement. Paul smiled, pride softening his features. "Let's keep it that way." As the evening rush began, the staff moved as one, the restaurant's heartbeat steady and strong. The changes weren't just in the rules, they were in every gesture, every shared laugh, every act of support. The Andersons' dream was finally reflected in the people who made it real. Megan sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, a half-finished job application blinking on the screen. She hesitated over the question, "Why did you leave your last position?" Her fingers hovered, unsure what to type. She glanced at a folder, the new training schedule from the restaurant resting beside her coffee mug. Her phone buzzed with a message from Samantha. "You coming to the workshop?" Megan replied, "I'll be there." She closed the laptop, nerves fluttering in her stomach. At the diversity workshop, Megan took a seat in the back, notebook in hand. The facilitator welcomed everyone, then asked, "What's one thing you wish you'd done differently?" Megan's turn came. She cleared her throat, voice shaky. "I wish I'd paid attention sooner. I wish I'd listened." The group nodded, some offering encouraging smiles. Afterward, Samantha caught up with her. "It's not easy, but you're trying. That counts." Megan managed a grateful smile. "I want to do better. I just don't know if it's enough." Samantha squeezed her arm. "It's a start." Back home, Megan opened her laptop again. She rewrote her answer. "I left to learn and grow. I'm committed to change." She saved the application, feeling a little lighter. Later, she sent an email to Evelyn and Charles. "Thank you for giving me another chance. I'm sorry for my part in what happened. I won't waste this opportunity." As she prepared for her next shift, Megan felt the weight of her past, but also the possibility of redemption. The journey wouldn't be quick or simple, but for the first time, she believed it was possible. Her apology wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something better. A crowd gathered on the sidewalk as local artists put the finishing touches on a vibrant mural stretching across the restaurant's sidewall. The painting showed hands of every color reaching toward a shared table, plates and cups overflowing with food and welcome. Evelyn stood nearby, arms folded, watching the scene with quiet pride. Charles snapped photos, capturing the moment for the restaurant's website. Kayla tugged at her mother's sleeve. "That's me, right there," she said, pointing to a girl in the mural, her likeness unmistakable. Evelyn smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek. "It's all of us," she replied. Inside, Samantha led a magazine reporter through the dining room, describing the changes. "It's not just a place to eat, it's a place to belong." The reporter nodded, scribbling notes. Adam set fresh flowers on each table, pausing to admire the mural through the window. Megan arrived for her shift, stopping outside to take in the mural. She lingered, tracing the painted outlines with her eyes. A passerby snapped a photo, posting it online with the caption, "A new landmark for our city." Paul joined Evelyn outside, his voice soft. "We've come a long way." Evelyn nodded. "And we're not done." As dusk settled, the mural glowed under the streetlights, drawing neighbors and strangers alike. Children pointed, families posed for photos, and the restaurant buzzed with a new sense of purpose. The mural became a symbol not just of what had changed, but of what was possible when a community chose to see each other. Evelyn looked around, hope shining in her eyes. The restaurant's story was no longer just about food. It was about healing, inclusion, and the promise that everyone, no matter their story, had a seat at the table. Kayla stood in front of the mural as the afternoon sun painted colors across her face. A group of neighborhood kids gathered around her, some holding bikes, others clutching backpacks. She smiled, inviting them closer. "You see that table in the mural?" she asked, pointing. "That's for all of us." One boy, shy and uncertain, asked, "Even me?" Kayla nodded, her voice steady. "Especially you. My family built this place so nobody would ever feel left out. Not here." A girl with braids looked up at the painted hands. What happened before? She wondered. Kayla took a breath, choosing her words carefully. Sometimes people forget to treat everyone the same. It hurt, but we talked about it, and we changed things. Now everyone gets a seat. Everyone gets a chance. The kids listened, some wide-eyed, others skeptical. One older boy shrugged. People say stuff, but nothing changes. Kayla met his gaze, her confidence unwavering. It changed here. I saw it. My mom and dad made sure of it. And now we all have to keep it going. Samantha stepped outside, waving at the group. Are you all hungry? Come in for lemonade? The children grinned, following her inside. Kayla lingered, tracing the mural's painted table with her finger. She whispered, We're not done. We're just getting started. As the kids filed in, laughter and chatter filled the air. Kayla watched them go, hope blooming in her chest. The mural wasn't just art, it was a promise. The next generation would remember this story, not as a warning, but as proof that change was possible and that belonging could be built, one day, one voice, one table at a time. Evelyn locked the front door as the last customer waved goodnight. The restaurant finally quiet after a long day. She moved from table to table, collecting stray napkins and resetting chairs. On one table, she found a handwritten note. Thank you for seeing me. She paused, reading it twice, a soft smile breaking through her fatigue. Outside, families lingered on the sidewalk, children skipping along the mural, their laughter drifting in through the glass. The city's usual rush had slowed here, replaced by something gentler. Samantha finished wiping down the counter, catching Evelyn's eye. Feels different now, she said, voice hushed. Evelyn nodded, folding the note and slipping it into her pocket. It is different, she replied. We did this together. Paul stepped out of the kitchen, drying his hands. I never thought a few changes would matter so much, he admitted, his tone thoughtful. But they do. Adam stacked chairs, glancing at the mural outside. People notice, even the quiet things. Evelyn looked around the empty room, her heart full. The transformation hadn't come with grand speeches or loud declarations. It had come in the small, steady acts, in a new schedule, a fair tip jar, a smile for every guest. Justice, she realized, was built in the moments no one saw. Kayla peeked in from the sidewalk, waving. Come outside, Mom. They want to take a picture with you. Evelyn joined her daughter, the two of them framed by the mural as neighbors gathered around. As the camera flashed, Evelyn felt the truth settle in. Change didn't need to shout to be real. Sometimes it was the quietest voices that carried the farthest, reshaping a community one whisper, one thank you, one open door at a time. Morning sunlight spilled across the mural as neighbors strolled by, pausing to admire the painted hands, reaching for a shared meal. A mother pointed out the artwork to her son, explaining, This is where everyone's welcome now. He grinned, pressing his palm against the wall, matching his fingers to the colors. Inside, the restaurant buzzed. With a new rhythm, Samantha greeted guests by name, Adam checked in with the kitchen, and Paul smiled as he watched a group of strangers share a table, laughter bridging differences. The old tension was gone, replaced by an easy comfort that settled over every meal. Kayla sat near the window, homework spread out, occasionally glancing up to watch the flow of people. She overheard a customer say, I heard what happened here. Feels good to support a place that stands for something. Evelyn caught Kayla's eye, pride and gratitude shining in her look. A local reporter snapped photos for a follow-up story, capturing the mural, the bustling dining room, and the sense of unity that had taken root. Megan, now more at ease, poured coffee for a couple visiting from out of town. We came because of the story, they said. We'll come back because of how you made us feel. As dusk approached, the mural glowed beneath the streetlights, a beacon for anyone seeking a place to belong. Kayla's words from weeks before echoed in the minds of those who passed by. Change doesn't roar. It whispers, then it rises. The city didn't transform overnight, but the shift was real and lasting. The restaurant became more than a place to eat. It became a symbol of hope, a reminder that quiet change, once begun, could ripple outward and remake a community for good.